Now, there's no reason in this day and age that you can't adequately sell your own guitar, or any piece of gear for that matter, online effectively, affordably, and easily. You got so many outlets. You got the eBay, you got the Reverb, you got the Craigslist still, you got forums like the Gear Page. Yet, so many people have trouble selling their guitars online. As someone who's bought, sold, and traded a fair amount of guitars online, I wanted to share with you some of my personal experience and my mistakes of why your guitar listings suck and what you can do to turn it around and start selling like a pro. 13 reasons why your guitar listings suck. Number 1. Poor quality photos. Chances are you own a smartphone, or you know someone who does. If so, you're able to take a good quality photo of a guitar. Now, the key to getting a good quality photo is lighting. And the best way to get lighting is sunlight. Try to take your guitar outside to take pictures, or open up a large enough window to put enough light on the guitar, and the natural sunlight helps bring out the grain and the figuring in the wood and highlights any details you want on the guitar. It's a very easy and effective way to get adequate lighting on the guitar. If you're unable to use sunlight, or you're in a dark area or shooting pictures in the evening, chances are your house lighting is not going to be enough. You can use movable lamps, but you're probably going to have to use a flash. If you do use a flash, make sure that you play with the composition a little bit. You don't want the flash bouncing off the gloss of the guitar and blurring everything out. Play with the angle, make sure you're getting a nice, clear, well-lit picture of the guitar. Now, it's not just the quality of the photos that matter, but the amount of photos. So a lot of listings, they'll only have 2 or 3 photos, or they'll have a ton of photos, but they only focus on maybe like one specific area of the guitar, like a really flamey maple top, and you won't see the back. So make sure you're taking a wide variety of photos that give a good overall representation of the guitar, including any accessories that might come with it, like the case itself. Reason number 2, poor description or lack of info. How many times have you found a guitar that you really, really like online, and you're looking through the photos and you're interested in buying it, then you go to look at the description to learn more, and there's like 2 or 3 sentences, and they don't even say anything about the guitar. Now, this is one of the most annoying things I see in a listing, and I see it all the time. You'd think it would be common sense to write a good description when you're trying to sell an item, but it's not. People are lazy. Guitars tend to be irrational and impulsive when they're making gear purchases. So if you're the type of person who maybe can't sleep and gets up at 3 a.m. and starts perusing guitars for sale, like some people I know, having a poor description on your listing could be the difference between a half-awake, potentially half-drunk individual clicking the Buy It Now button or passing on to the next listing. Now, this point is crucial, because when you provide a good description, not only do you increase your chances of attracting a potential buyer, when you write the description, you bring out a little bit of your personality. You got to keep in mind, these people don't know you personally, nor have they touched the guitar in person. Even if they're not buying that particular guitar, they start to notice your listing. And you start to build a rapport and a sense of trust with them, because you're the guy who takes the extra mile to write a good, informative guitar listing. So when it comes to the time that you have that particular guitar that they want to buy, they're more apt to purchase it from you. They know that you're the guy who's informative, who's thorough. They feel a sense of trust. They know that you represent the guitar well, and that's the guitar that they're going to get when they purchase it from you. Write a good, healthy description of the guitar. Not too long, because that's a whole nother problem we'll get to, but write an adequate description of the guitar that touches on all the points that you need to make. Reason number 3, know what you've got. Now listen, I know there's been so many different guitars that have been made over the decades that it's impossible to know them all, and you can't know the details of all of them, but if you're going to sell a guitar online, you got to know what you've got. Now, I mention this because it's very often that I see a listing where they don't know what they've got. It could be this make, it could be this model, it could be this year, it could have this pickup in it, or have this done to it. They're not sure. When you do this, this not only brings a little bit of distrust and dishonesty to your listing, decreases your chances of selling the guitar for sure, but also it brings about a lot of miscommunication. People will start contacting you and asking you questions, and you won't be on the same page. They'll be asking you this, but you'll be thinking it's something else, and it brings a lot of unnecessary involvement into your listing. Like I mentioned before, there's no reason in this day and age with the abundance of information that we have that you can't find what your guitar was, or at least some of the key details about your guitar. We've got serial number decoding websites, we got forums, blogs, fan sites, manufacturer websites, books, magazines, brick and mortar stores, helpless guitar nerds in black t-shirts and unkempt facial hair wandering the streets at night hoping to bump into someone who wants to talk about gear. You have all these resources at your fingertips ready to provide you information about your guitar. If you know what you've got, you'll be able to value that guitar adequately so you won't get taken to the cleaners. Or on the opposite end, you won't think you got something more than you really have and you overprice the guitar, which brings us to our next point. Reason number 4, price not to sell. This one's going to depend on your personal selling situation, but most people putting a guitar up for sale are trying to get top dollar, of course. You've done the market research, you know what they're listed at, you know what they sell for, you factored in your selling and listing fees, shipping and handling, and you even put a little bit of wiggle room to work out a better deal, but you want to try to cover your nut, of course. Now this is just my personal philosophy, but when I put a guitar up for sale, I put it up below market value right off the bat. You gotta give your listing a reason to stand out. Let's get realistic here. Your guitar is not special. It's one of dozens, if not hundreds of the same guitar for sale online. You got to give it a reason to stand out. Put yourself in the position of the buyer. When you're selling, you're trying to get the most money. When you're buying, you're trying to get the best deal. If you're looking to buy your own guitar, what price would you see that would make you click on a listing that would stand out above all the other listings? Even if you have your guitar below market value, you're still going to have people who want to get a better deal, but you'll be able to say to them, hey, look, I got a nice piece here. It's below the rest of the market, and I think I got a really fair price on this guitar. You'll be able to hold your ground. Again, this is my personal opinion. List your guitar at whatever you feel comfortable with. Only you know what you need to get out of it. And if you do in fact have something that's truly rare, or it's a primo example of that particular model, by all means ask top dollar. You deserve to get more for that guitar. But if you're not getting any action and your guitar's not selling, don't get angry if it's priced too high. Reason number 5, not being clear on your terms. When you set up a store on a site like eBay or Reverb, they give you a little pre-formatted cookie cutter form where you can put all your selling and shipping terms so they pop up automatically on every listing that you place. I usually go the extra mile and I reiterate my selling and shipping terms in about 2 or 3 sentences at the bottom of my description. However, a problem I often see is a seller will have their pre-formatted selling and shipping terms and then have completely contradictory terms within the body of their description. Make sure you are being crystal clear and consistent in your selling and shipping terms throughout your entire listing. When I'm talking terms, I mean the methods of payment you accept, how much handling time, what methods of shipment are you willing to use? Do you ship only within your own country? Do you ship international? Is the sale final, or do you accept returns? If so, what is your return policy? Make sure you are clearly defined and consistent in your terms. This is, again, building trust, building rapport. You don't want to give your potential buyer any doubt as how that sale is going to be handled. Make sure you're clear even before they get a chance to click the buy it now button or send you a message. This also covers your little behind in case there should be an issue after the sale and the buyer files a complaint against you. Reason number 6, not being honest. Out of all the reasons that your guitar listing potentially sucks, this is single-handedly the most important reason. Make sure you are 100% honest about your guitar. This means if there's any issue or potential issue with your guitar, you gotta mention it in your description. This can be as small as a single scratch or ding in the finish, but includes any repairs that have been done to the guitar, any modifications, if there's excessive fret wear, an electronics problem, a neck reset, a headstock break. If there's something that you know about that's an issue with the guitar, you have to disclose it in your description. Now, you don't have to disclose the whole entire life of the guitar and every tumble and fall it's had, but anything that you know of that's an issue, you have to talk about. If you don't disclose an issue that you know about, it will bite you in the ass 100%. 100% of the time. I guarantee it. It might not happen right away, but karma will come around. Now, I know a lot of us guitar nerds will have some guitars for a very short amount of time. I have learned from my personal mistakes that if you have a guitar for a short amount of time or you're looking just to flip it, you still got to know your guitar. This goes back to the previous point. Inspect that guitar, go underneath the hood, pop open the pick guard, make sure the truss rod is working. Look for any potential issues in that guitar. Make sure you find them and list them before you sell it. Again, I have to reiterate, this is the most important part of your guitar listing. Always be 100% honest. If you're dishonest with your guitar listings, you will always gain a reputation and chase away potential buyers. Reason number 7, too much information. Now, this is the exact opposite to reason number 2, which is too little information. This is when you open up a guitar listing and there's thump, like a novel written. When you write too large of a description, you bombard the potential buyer with way too much information to sift through to see if this is even a guitar that they're interested in purchasing. Now, of course, I love guitar history, and I like hearing the personal stories of guitars, how they change hands, where they come from, what they mean to people. I love that, and I don't want to lose that completely. I'm not saying to take that all away, but when you write too much about a guitar, you start to sound a bit desperate and you're trying to sell it on merits other than the guitar itself. Now, when you write too large of a description, you bring on a whole nother host of reasons why your guitar listing potentially sucks, which includes number 8, leaning on the subjective and not the objective. This guitar sounds sweet. The pickups are really fat. The neck on it is super fast. I've been playing guitar for 20 plus years now. I don't even know what a fast guitar neck is. Is it a satin finish? Is it a thin profile, big frets? Is it smooth? What happens if you like fat necks and you play faster then? What does that mean? One of the biggest drawbacks of sucky guitar ads are leaning on subjective points and not objective points. Remember, your potential buyer doesn't have a chance to play and hold the guitar in their hands. So when you go on and on about how nice the guitar is and how great it sounds, you're not giving an actual physical representation of what the guitar is. Instead of talking about how fast the neck is, give some actual dimensions. Don't be afraid to get some old dial calipers or a digital micrometer and take measurements of the nut width. How deep is the neck at the 1st fret, at the 12th fret? Maybe compare it to other models that people might know. Give people an actual physical representation of the neck. If you sell guitars on a consistent basis, just go on to Amazon or like a Target or whatever and get a cheap little scale. Weigh your guitars, get an accurate weight of them, and put that first thing in your listing. Make sure you're giving the buyer an actual physical, tangible representation of your guitar, and quit talking about how sweet it is. One guy's number one is another guy's dumpster guitar and vice versa. You might be going on and on about how sweet and awesome it sounds on a particular point, and that might be not what that particular buyer is looking for. Just talk about the objectives as much as possible when selling your guitar. Reason number 9, sentiment does not equal value. Listen, this guitar I'm selling means a lot to me. My grandpa gave it to me on his deathbed. In fact, I learned to play guitar on it, and I wrote my first song and dedicated it to my childhood sweetheart. And that ding on the front is where I threw my baseball when she broke my heart. It's a good luck charm, too. It was with me that night at the Denny's after a gig when a grease fire broke out. We were the only 2 things that got out alive. This guitar means a lot to me. Yeah, well, guess what? It don't mean to me. Yeah, I know we all have to sell guitars that are sentimental every once in a while, and it sucks. But sentimental value does not equal monetary value. Just leave it out of your listing. It makes you look desperate. It makes you look like you could be wishy-washy and back out of a deal. Yeah, again, I'm sorry. It sucks. We all have to do it, but if you have sentimental value, leave it to yourself. Mention it to the buyer maybe after he buys it, but don't put it in your listing. This is a lot like my next reason. Reason number 10, sob stories. This guitar plays so sweet. It's my favorite axe of all time. I wouldn't be selling it if it weren't for my girlfriend's hamster that needs surgery. I just made a huge financial decision. I leased a Kia Sorento, and I need to renovate my bathroom before I sell my house. And then once I sell my house, I need to pay for movers. Other than that, I keep it forever. Listen, the real reason why you're selling the guitar is because you suck with money. And I'm not judging, story of my life. Again, with sentimental value, leave your sob stories at home. It doesn't help your cause. It makes you look desperate. It makes you look like you could possibly back out on the deal. Reason 11. No documentation, no provenance. I've actually owned a couple guitars and tried to purchase some guitars where the seller goes, well, this was actually owned by X player and he played it on this record and then he took it on this world tour and then he gave it to this famous player and yada yada yada. At the end of the day, if you don't have a letter, you don't have anything authenticating it, you don't have any documentation, you don't have any provenance. Again, I reiterate, I love hearing about the history of the guitar. I like knowing where it came from. I like hearing stories about it. But if you can't authenticate that a particular player owned it, you shouldn't be using it to add value to that guitar. Now, if you do get such a guitar, do the homework yourself. Try to see if you can reach out to that player, see if you can get a signed letter or a picture of them with the guitar. It might work out in your favor. But in the meantime, if you don't have any documentation, you shouldn't be using it to try to add value and sell the guitar based on hearsay. Reason number 12, cutting and pasting. This one I see all the time and it annoys the crap out of me. Let's say you're looking at Gibson Les Pauls for sale and you come across a listing that's obviously by an individual seller, not a retail outlet. You look at the listing and there's like one or two sentences and then there's a whole host of paragraphs. This touches on the problems before of having both too little information and too much information at the same time. But you read the first sentence and it doesn't really give any information. And then you read the first sentence of all the paragraphs and it says something like, the Gibson Les Paul was a major innovation in solid body electric guitars when it first broke onto the scene in the early 1950s. And it's been a mainstay with guitars throughout the decades for its iconic looks and classic tones. Please don't cut and paste other people's descriptions into your personal ad. It looks cheesy and it sucks. If someone's shopping for a Gibson Les Paul or a Fender Stratocaster, they know the history of the guitar. They know the basics of the company. They know the basics of the model. Stop taking other people's work. I'm not even talking about the copyright issues. It just looks cheesy. And it also lends a little bit of dishonesty and distrust again because you're taking other people's work. The little bit that you have about the guitar doesn't say anything about it, and then again it gives too much information for the buyer to sift through. Take the time and write your own description. And finally, reason 13, your guitar is not rare or vintage. Probably. Okay, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this one. So in my day job, I work in an office in an industry unrelated to the music business, and I get dozens and dozens of emails and calls every day, and they all say, need ASAP, hot, urgent, top priority, ASAP, 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 ASAP. I've seen the word ASAP so many times that it really has lost all meaning. Everything that I need to do in my job is an emergency. They need it ASAP. So I still have to prioritize what I do. This is exactly how I feel when I see a guitar ad and it has the word rare. Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break it to you, but your guitar is not rare. But Nick, it's a limited edition, 1 of 500. A limited edition of 500 guitars is still 500 guitars. If a manufacturer does a limited edition of 1,000 or 500 or 250 or even just 25 guitars, that guitar was probably drooled on by a famous player and comes with a picture of them drooling on the guitar and a certificate of authenticity. It's signed by the CEO. Comes with a special velvet case lining and a case for the case. Some uber rich collector who doesn't play guitar buys it. And no judgments here. I love all types of collectors. Even people who don't play guitar. It's all good for the industry. No judgments. And then they put it underneath their bed or in their closet. And then they get bored with it after a few years. And then they sell it back to the store. And it goes back on the market. So even though there's only 25 of that guitar, is that guitar really rare? Maybe. The way I look at it is that guitar is heavily documented. In this day and age, with the global economy and everyone knows what's up, people know where that guitar is and they know what it is when it comes for sale. It's not really rare. Now, I would make the argument that the original 22 Gibson Explorers that shipped in 1958 and 59 That's rare. And again, this is all open up for interpretation. There are rare guitars out there. There are real vintage guitars out there, but people seem to throw that word around too much. To do a little experiment here, after you're done watching this video, the next few times you're looking at guitar listings, raise your level of awareness and look for the word rare in the title or the description. You'll notice that it comes up in almost every single listing. Folks, your guitar is not rare. The reason why I mention this is because you're using that as a selling point. You're trying to add perceived value to your guitar. But when you see it so many times, it doesn't add sort of an excitement. You need to sell it on the merits of the guitar itself. When you say something is rare, you're trying to sell a guitar other than what it is. All guitars are rare if you really want to make it. It's got this sort of switch tip, or they only made so much with this pickup cover. And I get it. People are super into it, and that was used as a method to authenticate a certain year to make sure the guitar was legit. Now, I don't care. You're still going to keep saying it's rare and it's vintage, even though it was made in 1983. And it's fine. If you want to use that word, it's okay. It's up to you. And I know that there are truly rare guitars that are out there for sale. But if you're using it to try to bolster your selling points, don't do it, because it doesn't help. It's too common. Sell the guitar on what it is. Look at the other reasons that I've listed. If you take good pictures, have a good description, build the reputation of being an honest seller, make sure you represent what you're selling. You don't need to have a rare guitar. When you have good, solid, informative listings with great pictures, you don't need to make up a bunch of stories. You don't need to give your sob story. You don't need to talk about how rare or exceptional it is or how sweet it is. You can sell it on the merits of the guitar itself. And in fact, you don't have to write a lot, because the guitar will sell itself. It will have trust in the ad. You'll have your personality in the ad. If you follow these reasons, or even just a few of them, you'll start to clean up your ads and start to really streamline the process of selling gear, and you'll start selling more gear. I guarantee it. It'll be more fun to sell gear, and you'll have better interactions with other buyers and sellers. Now, I fully admit, I have probably violated most of the reasons. Believe me, I've written my sob stories. I've talked about how much the guitar means to me. I've taken bad pictures. I have done it all. But if you follow these guidelines and you just try to get better and better, you'll start to notice that you'll have better and better luck selling these guitars. Practice makes perfect. You got to start somewhere. Okay, this took way too much time. I think that's it. If you have any questions, comments, please leave them below. I know I'm going to get some crap for this one. But thanks for watching. I'm going to be back with more stuff.